Welcome to the Happy in the Mess podcast. We are your hosts, Marlena, Cheri, and Matthew. We are therapists and coaches, and we want to share our own stories with you, as well as the wisdom, insights, and tips we've learned along the way. Thanks for tuning in to this episode.
Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Happy in the Mess podcast. Today we're hosting with Matthew Morgan. Marlena Del Hierro is here, and we are going to choose to make Cheri Timko the source of our spotlight episode. So this is going to be a little bit of a deviation from our normal format in which the three of us just kind of sit around and talk about a particular topic. And in these spotlight episodes, we become the topic. Just because we think it's a great idea just to let people know who we are, what we do. Sometimes it's nice to figure that out ourselves as well. So Cheri, thank you for being the spotlight person in this one.
You're scaring me, the victim, huh?
Oh no, it's you know what, it's been so great getting to know you through the programs that we shared, and then through we started just doing accountability group together where the three of us just kind of started jawing around and coaching and trying to figure out, and turned into venting, and then it turned into a podcast. It's just been an amazing journey, and I love getting to watch you just really start to grow. So that's my introduction, but I would love to hear from you. If you can introduce yourself, tell us what you do.
I'm Cheri Timko. I am a couples relationship coach and a couples psychotherapist. I really this is a deep dive for me. I don't skim the surface. I live and breathe how to help couples have really good relationships. I just believe that becomes a good relationship with your partner becomes a springboard so that you can do so many other things in life. When that isn't running well, you're draining off a lot of energy that could be put towards other things, but not just to let it run in the background and just kind of do its thing, but to actually have that be a source of energy and a source of stability.
I love that, Cheri, because I think a lot of people think of their partner or having a spouse as being a drain, or instead of thinking of it as being a springboard. So I'm curious, what motivated you to even get into this work into the first place?
It's been kind of a journey. I didn't start out knowing I wanted to work with couples. I started out working with teenagers, and I loved that work, but they were so frustrated because they really didn't have much say in their lives. Like most of that work was about teaching skills and helping them be patient. So the next step was I started working with their parents in family counseling, and that was much more effective. And it helped all the kids in the family, not just that child. But what I came to realize is that I could work with just the parents, and I didn't even need the kids in the room. And that became very powerful in terms of being able to change things for the whole family.
So this really was an evolution. Like it didn't start out this way. It just, you found what was effective and you rolled and you were good at it. So you went with it.
And I love it. There's this moment in couples work where a couple shifts. And I wish I had really great words for it because I don't. It's such an experiential thing. And they will show up and they'll be interacting with each other and they'll be relaxed. And that shift, I recognize that shift when it happens. And it's such a privilege for me to be there, to have seen that shift. But that's when I know that they're on the right track and they're going to move forward and things are going to be better from there.
That's awesome. Yeah. So do you have an encapsulation? Like, what's your mission? Do you have something that just this is what I do?
Well, I guess it's twofold. One is that I want to reduce the divorce rate. It started out being in my region. My region is very small. I'm in West Virginia, and the whole state has 1.5 million people. So when you compare that to other places, there are cities that have much bigger populations than that. So my focus really was on this region, and it's been awesome because when I really think about it, I think about that I have impacted so many families just in this north central area of West Virginia. But beyond that, I actually want to impact the world. I believe in marriage, and I believe that most couples can have a really amazing relationship. And I'm all right. So my other way of thinking about this is that I think it's not enough to have an okay relationship with your spouse. Like that's just not enough. And people can have a really amazing relationship with their partner, and it doesn't take a huge amount of work. Usually it takes small, consistent changes that are thoughtful. And and so I think people give up on that way too easily.
Mm. It so makes me want to beg the question of why and how long does it take and all these other things. But that could take a whole nother episode. But I guess what makes you the most proud about your work, or or what are you most proud of in the last year?
Ah, so many things. It's um most proud is probably my kids, but
Mhm.
professional. So we have homeschooled our kids for the past almost decade. Um, and we've just graduated the second one, and then the older two moved out. So I feel like we've only got one more. She's 16, and I feel like we are on the cusp of being at that goal point where we're like, okay, whatever happens next, maybe that's not on me. But professionally, I think the shift into coaching has really opened up a lot for me, personally and professionally, where I am doing things that I never saw myself doing. My videos, I, I I can't say they're fantastic. They certainly have not gone viral, but going from being in this quiet, closed space where I was homeschooling and then doing therapy, and therapy is one-on-one or one-on-two, and you're very quiet and you don't show much of yourself, and shifting into this bigger space, this bigger personality, this bigger audience. I think that has really, really been a good shift for me.
Well, and for the viewers who don't know, Cheri's very visible. She's been on over 50 podcasts. Is that right, Cheri?
Yes, I love being on podcasts.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
who knew from a quiet therapist life to now being very public.
Yeah, absolutely. And accomplished a lot of writing as well. You've put out articles. And yes, I love this idea of, from north central West Virginia, nice little quiet area, and really you're just almost blossoming through here. So, do you have a goal? Do you have some place where you see like what's the next round of business, or where do you see yourself going with this?
I guess I'm not 100% sure of where that endpoint is because I feel like I'm on a path and I don't necessarily know where that is. I have big ambitions for myself. I really want my coaching business to thrive. I also want my therapy practice to thrive. Um, it's really in my heart to train the next generation of therapists to do this couples work. It is very specialized. A lot of people dabble in it. And when they dabble in it, they run the risk of doing some real damage to couples. So there's a real need for therapists who know what they're doing. One of the hardest things about doing couples work is that you need to be 100% on the side of each partner at every moment.
Mm, difficult.
That
Mhm.
is difficult.
Yeah.
And to see the best in each of them. And, that's a lot of people will go to individual therapy and that therapist is on their side and that feels amazing, but it's also at the expense of some of their other relationships, very often their marriage as well.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really good point. So I'm guessing that this lights you up, or what would you say lights you up the most about your work?
Oh. There's so much. I get really excited about this. Um, People can geek out on all sorts of things, but I don't know that they geek out on couples relationships very often, and that's really what I do. Um, what what I love are finding these small things that couples can do that shift the whole relationship. And it's one of the benefits of being in a long-term relationship. You can make a small change that over time leads to big change. It's like if you're walking on a path and you diverge even just 1 degree, because it's a long-term relationship, over time, you get to a very different place. So I'm always looking for like, what is the smallest thing someone can do? What is a fun thing? Because it shouldn't be excruciating. It should be fun. And then how they can make these shifts by just being consistent.
Mm, I love that analogy. Could you give us an example of one small thing that you have led couples to do, perhaps, that led them into a really much more fulfilling place in their marriage?
Yeah, I have a little test that couples can do to see if my program's going to work.
Mm.
And it is for 3 days in a row, pick something and say thank you to their partner for it. It's such a minor thing. People think it doesn't matter, but just saying, I see that you did this and my life is better because of it. Thank you for doing that. And very often in 3 days, you will see a softening in your
Mm.
partner. It's not going to change your whole world. You'd have to do it for more than 3 days for that to happen. But you can see this softening in your partner. But the other benefit is the softening that happens in you.
Mm.
And so just a very small thing, it probably takes less than 30 seconds a day to do that, but it can shift how the relationship feels.
Absolutely. That's really
I
lovely.
love that. That's awesome. What a great challenge too.
Mhm.
You know, so did you find at any point, does somebody inspire you in your work? And I mean, do you have people that you draw off of?
Many people, I've got all the marriage gurus who I follow, obviously, all of them. Probably the person who has inspired me the most is my husband.
Mm.
I think it's shifted now, but early in our relationship, I was a couples therapist, but I knew that it was because of my husband's easygoing personality that we had a really good relationship. And I give him a lot of credit for showing me how to be a really good and supportive spouse, and to really show how that stability can create that platform to do so many other things.
Oh, I hope he gets to hear this episode and hears the gratitude coming out of you. It's really a testament to your work that you have a marriage that does the thing that you help other marriages do. You're walking the walk.
Yeah, it breaks my heart when I see other professionals get divorced. I mean,
Mm.
there's so many things that you can do. And I think that people miss how much work it is to get divorced.
Mm.
Like it's often less work to fix the relationship that you have than it is to separate your life from someone and all the tendrils that are connecting it.
Hmm. Yes.
Absolutely. It's a great reminder. And yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times we don't process through all of that. We need people who can help us with that. So that's awesome. Other than your husband, is there anybody else you have that cheers you on or pushes you on to keep going through this?
My daughters are great cheerleaders, and then I have a bunch of friends who all are invested at some level and support me. And I love the relationship that we have created because my experience of having close relationship with colleagues who we support each other in a mutual and collaborative way, that's been a key and pivotal part of every venture that I've ever made.
I love that, like the symbiosis and we don't go it alone, even if we're not married, that having people cheering you on and the support group and the community that you've created also speaks to the success and the fulfillment in your work.
I even if we are in competition, which the three of us are not, but I have a other groups and there's more overlap in our work because we're also different, because we bring our own personality to it. I see those as collaborative. I really don't see those as competition.
Right on. Right on. So, Cheri, I know you've talked to us a little bit about your jewelry having significance. Can you speak to what your jewelry signifies?
Oh, okay. So I am not someone who pays attention to fashion. I just really don't care. And in fact, most of my clothes look similar because it's not something I put brain energy into. Um, so um, I wear stuff because it matters. And so
Mhm.
all of my jewelry is something to me. So the necklace that I have on today has 5 rings on it. It's
Mhm.
it was given to me by my family for my 50th birthday. So there are 5 of us in the family, and it was my 50th birthday. So there's a ring for each person and each decade, and it has each person's name written on one of them. Um, and each one of my necklaces has some significance like that. And then when I was in my 20s, for some reason, it occurred to me that I didn't have to wear matching earrings. I,
Mm.
I lost one of my favorite earrings and I didn't want to give the other one up. And so I almost never wear matching earrings, but all of them signify something. What do I have on now? I have on a rose, which is my favorite flower. I have on 2 different love knots because I'm really fascinated with that image and it relates very much to my work. And
Mm.
I don't remember what the other one is, but and my rings, my one of my rings was my mother-in-law's. And so it feels like a good connection with her. So it's just my way of being a little bit more authentic to myself.
No, they're so symbolic.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah,
Mhm.
very cool. So, and I catch that whole there's a big investment in family and extended family in here as well. And I love hearing from you, right? So there's all these things that I hear push you or draw you on. If I can get a little deep real quick, like the flip-flop, are there things that you're really afraid of? Like, is there
Hmm.
something that you move away from that kind of motivates you to keep pushing through?
Oh, I have such a weird relationship with fear. Um, and so the Enneagram, the only thing, I know very little about it, but the only thing I got out of the Enneagram is that part of my personality is to move towards fear.
Hmm.
And, most people don't. If they're
Hmm.
afraid of something, that's a sign to step back. And so I, it's hard for me to answer that question because when I identify that fear, then I'm like, okay, how do I deal with that? How do I break that down? How do I slowly move towards that? Or how do I throw myself into the deep end? So, like doing videos, that was way outside my comfort zone. And
Mm.
so I talked myself into doing it because I was like, well, nobody's watching. Nobody cares what you're doing. So I
Mm.
just started
Nice.
doing them. They've definitely gotten better. So I think, most of my fears probably revolve around my daughters. They're entering adulthood and
Mm.
they're young women and they're just really praying that they have good experiences and that the bad experiences are things they can learn from, but
Mhm.
aren't going to be traumatic or something that they carry with them. Of course, I can't control that. So
Mm.
it's what's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
No, but even that is that's the cry of the parent right there is how to allow them enough space to trip and fall without hurting themselves drastically, you know.
Yeah. And
So
it's been such a privilege to raise them. Like I can't exaggerate how much I think I have enjoyed them, and
Mm.
I respect them and I trust them. And so they're going out into the world and they're going to figure it out, but I think that they're going to do okay.
Mhm.
Well, and it just speaks to your work as a whole too, this sort of investment in relationships and how much they matter, and the meaning that you make out of having all of them. And of course, you wouldn't have your daughters if it weren't for your husband. And who knows what your work would look. It's so much of your life has shaped your work, is what I'm
Yeah,
hearing.
that's really significant about my husband because I didn't want kids.
Oh.
So my oldest was one of one. I told him if we could have another one like her, I would agree to a second one. And then that didn't work out
It
that
very rarely
way.
does. I was hoping it would, but
Uh, so I think, and then the third one, she's probably the only one that I had a burning desire to have.
Hmm.
So I went from really thinking I might not have kids at all to having three amazing daughters.
How did he convince you? How did you get on board with that?
Well, this was one of those make it or break it things in our relationship. He wanted kids and I didn't, but I wasn't super strong in that feeling. I
Mhm.
just I just didn't have any calling to do it. I used to say my biological clock just never started ticking.
Mm.
So when we got married, we had the agreement that we would try one at some point. So we got to that point and we decided to have her, and then everything else just kind of rolled through that.
Funny how it turned out. Yep.
so no pressure on number one there, but she pretty much set the tone for the remaining two to come in here. So,
Hmm.
Oh,
as an oldest child, I can resonate with this. Like there's a lot of pressure right there.
my kids have it hard. My husband and I are both perfectionists, and we're always trying to curb that. And I see that in each of my daughters, trying to like help them not be perfectionists, but
Mhm.
they
Mm.
get what they get, and I don't have control over what things they learn from us.
Hmm.
Very true.
So what would we find you doing on a Friday night? Work aside.
Oh, a
Unless
Friday
it is
night.
work on a Friday night. I hope that's not the case.
I love my work, so it depends. On a Friday night, I prefer to have a date with my husband.
Mm.
We about a year and a half ago, maybe almost 2 years ago, we committed to doing a once a week date night, and have had some really amazing benefits from doing that. In fact, I based my new program on dating for couples. And I just see the couples blossoming in that. So usually that, or I'll hang out with one of my daughters and watch whatever show we're working through. Like right now, we're working through Friends again. It's
Mm.
really interesting to look at that show a second time in today's day and age through the eyes of my 16-year-old.
I'm sure. That's very interesting. Yeah. So date night would be your Friday night, preferably. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite top 1, 2, 3 dates that you've had with him? Something you've really enjoyed?
I'll tell you, we're boring and we usually go out to dinner.
Mm.
But in doing so, I'm running this new program and I'm doing it with him this first run. And the first session, it's structured that you have some specific questions that you ask each other, and then you go on a date. And so we sat in Panera and asked these questions to each other. And I realized it had been a long time since we just sat and looked each other eye to eye and just had a open-hearted conversation. So
Mm.
it's not the places, it's the things that we do and the ways that we connect.
Mm. Well
Oh, that's
said.
awesome. Yeah. And I love even that of like this is a program that you have and you've told us a lot about it of being able to go out, ask these questions, have the date night, get people to connect with each other, even the gratitude you were talking about earlier. And I love hearing this part because this isn't just an academic exercise for you. This is something that you're out there, you're doing it right with your people, you know.
Yeah. He's not always a good sport, but he's usually a good sport because I usually don't teach couples strategies that don't work. And the
Mhm.
only way I can know if they're going to work is if I do them. So I I have just started a PhD in sex therapy. And so I'm not sure how my husband's going to feel about me bringing those exercises home and being like, okay, I got to try this one out. There may be some he'd be excited about, but I'm sure that there are some that he's not.
Mm.
I'll say there are worse things that you can bring home from your job. I mean, that's, you know,
Yep. True, true. How fun though.
uh,
I mean, it's invigorating.
let's touch base on that real quick because I mean, you mentioned that you're going back to school in your late 40s, working on your doctorate. Late 40s, I did it intentionally. I know what you said earlier with the necklace, right? If it starts with a five, it's still late 40s, right? But like, what motivated you to go back to school, work on your, to become Dr. Cheri here?
I could have done a certification. I could have just done a lot of training. But
Mhm.
since my 20s, like I graduated from college and thought I would go on and get my doctorate. And
Mm.
that didn't work out. And then over the years, there's been less need to. There's very little that I can't do now
Yeah.
with my
Mhm.
degree and licensure and training that I could do with a PhD. But when I found this particular program, and it's very targeted, and I am so excited about these classes. I don't know. I really dive into this couple stuff so deep because it fascinates me and I love to learn this stuff. So it just was the right match to be able to meet this old dream, but also bring this new life and this new information to fill a gap that I felt for a while.
That's amazing, Sherry. I mean, you really are diving deep, getting a doctorate in this and really invigorating your knowledge, expertise, scope, breadth and depth. Yeah, huge. It's
Yeah,
so
and
fun.
it's
I'm
great that
excited.
I'm loving it too.
Oh
Yes.
my goodness. Well, yeah, I would hope that you would love the thing you're going to get a PhD in, because if not, oof, that would be challenging.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
So, what about, is there anything, I know we're going to kind of roll maybe into a little bit of a lightning round, get to know you on a personal side here a little bit, but was there anything we missed on the professional side as far as what might motivate you or what really lights you up or anything you want people to know as they're listening to this?
Oh, I think we hit most of my soapbox issues. Um, I do have a few things that I get really passionate about. One of them is watching therapists on TV that, that
Hmm.
couples work. It's nothing like what you would see on TV. What you see in movies and shows is that
Mm,
every week one of them gets thrown under the bus and told how they're screwing everything up. And then the
mm,
next week you come back and the other one gets thrown under the bus. So that one gets thrown under
mm.
the bus again. And that they walk out of those sessions feeling beat up and demoralized and hopeless. And that is nothing like what couples therapy is. And if you're in couples therapy and that's what it's like, please find another therapist.
Mhm.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
is great advice.
Mm.
Are there any, uh, and this is spontaneous here, but are there any good Hollywood therapists that you find either bits or pieces that you're like, hey, this is pretty accurate, or this is something you like, or
There are some that I sometimes see and I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but really have never seen a couples therapist who was good. My
Mhm.
favorite is the couples therapist from Ozark. She was taking bribes from each of them, and you could watch her shift what she was saying and where she was leading them based on who had given her the bigger bribe that
That's
week.
hilarious.
Yeah. Well,
Interesting.
she also got herself killed. So,
Mm.
I
Spoiler
think
alert.
it fit her style.
Mm.
Mhm. Absolutely. The one that comes to mind is this is back in the 90s of The Ref with Dennis Leary, who is not a couples therapist. He's a robber who has broken in and is holding a couple hostage, and but like ends up basically being a therapist and letting them both know that hey, you guys got to quit doing this. So
That's
yeah.
been an interesting thing that I have learned in this process of moving into coaching is that really everybody thinks that they're an expert in marriage.
Mhm.
And
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, like, hmm, maybe they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So part of your mission here is raising that awareness that we don't know everything, and you know that we
And
all
that
have.
and that you can do it better. Like
Mhm.
just this is all right. So one more thing. Most couples try harder using the same old strategies that they have used their entire relationship that didn't work and got them to where they are today. So a lot of times when people say that they understand marriage or they are good at it, I wonder where their quality of the relationship is, and that most
Mm.
people settle for much less than they can get out of their relationship.
Oh, what a good message.
Mhm.
That a relationship really can be awesome and it doesn't take a lot of work and it can be fun and it should be fun.
And it
Yeah.
should be fun.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Awesome.
Very
So
helpful.
where can people find you?
My website is cheritimko.com. There's lots of good resources on there, including a couple of freebies. One is on building relationship habits so that you can kind of automate your relationship and make it much simpler, just easier to invest in without it taking a lot of time or energy. The other thing that I have there is a free mini course for a person who just found out that their partner had an affair. That moment is just absolutely devastating. And I tried to collect all the things that I have learned over the years to give them that clarity of what's important and what is just noise and fluff and a distraction. So those are also there. The place where you can find me hanging out is on Facebook um, in my group. It's called Date Night Community, and I do some free resources there every week. And I really love that community.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Very cool. So they can reach out, find you any of those places, and obviously you do some great work with them. So
Mhm.
Thank you.
so now, and for the all important questions, the lightning round, we're going to kind of fly through some of these things real quick, right? But so
Okay.
are you more of a chocolate or vanilla?
Oh, chocolate all the way.
Awesome. Ice cream, cake,
Both.
both. Smart. More of a texter or talker?
Oh, that's a hard one because I spend all day talking with people, but then
Mm.
I text between sessions, but then I talk with clients. So it really depends, but I probably prefer texting.
Fair. Totally fair. Favorite day of the week?
Friday, Saturday, Saturday.
Had to think about that one. So, um, would you rather be able to speak every single language in the world or talk to animals?
Languages.
Language is
Mm.
not an animal. How about favorite holiday?
Mm, Thanksgiving.
Good one. Um, what age do you want to retire?
Oh, I don't know that I do.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna say,
really love
I,
the work I do,
yep.
and I could not see entirely giving it up.
Mm.
I was reading through the questions. I saw that, and I was like, having talked to you, like retirement. What's retirement? So,
Mhm.
if you could travel back in time, what period would you go to, or where might you go? I'll give you a phone booth and let you go.
I always thought that I'd go back to the pioneer days of like when the wagon trains were crossing the country. But as I age, I think I'd like to go to the future where there are more comforts than even now.
Amen. Good answer. I say pioneer sounds a little hard.
We're watching through 1923 right now, and just the 100 years of like where we've come from. I'm with you. Let's do 100 years in the future. You know. Let's go deep. If you could ask God any question, what would you ask?
I probably have a lot of why questions. I don't know. That's a hard one. I don't know if I have a good answer for that. I'll have to pass on that,
Pass on that one. That's fair.
or ask me in a couple of weeks when I've really thought about that. I feel like if I had one question to ask God, it had better be a good one.
Mm.
Yep. I've always thought, would Adam have a belly button? But that's probably not a deep, great knowledge there. So there's not that this would ever happen, but there's a spider in your house. Do we squash it or do we set it free?
Oh, I've done both. I, my first choice would be to set it free, but if that's not going to happen, it's going to die.
Okay.
Okay.
Ideal temperature,
75,
75. Is that inside or outside?
both.
Both. Okay. Who controls the thermostat in the house?
Oh, me, and it's not set at 75.
Okay.
I'm just far more practical than that. I would not
It
want to
makes
see the electric bill when
Mm.
when it was at that level.
Yeah, no kidding. So, how about favorite movie?
I have a lot of favorite movies. I really connect with movies in a lot of ways. I do have my Jurassic Park shirt on. Well,
Mhm.
yeah, Park. I picked Park this morning. I really love when I've read a book and the movie is almost as good or as good. And I think that they did a really good job with those movies.
Mm.
I don't know, The Cutting Edge. Um,
Oh, that's a great one.
I know.
Go pick.
Parenthood.
Mm.
Parenthood, if you remember that
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
Steve Martin,
Steve Martin.
uh,
Yep.
Grand Canyon,
Mm.
50 Dates, 51st
Mm.
Dates, that's what it
It's
was. Adam
Adam
Sandler
Sandler,
and Drew
Drew Barrymore.
Barrymore.
Yep,
There's something really fun about that one.
definitely. That's what my wife and I, that's one of our favorites too. And it's funny because both of us are not particular to the actors, but they really work at making the movie well.
Yeah.
So, how about favorite? Do you have a favorite music or group?
Oh, I used to love music and then I had children and I started listening to the music that was appropriate for them to listen to. And now they are off listening to all sorts of things. And I don't know any of the artists and I don't know any of the music. So back when I was tracking that and paying attention, I love Dave Matthews. That's
Mm.
my absolute favorite. But now you'll find me listening to NPR or podcasts or books.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then the all important, more preferable to have breakfast for dinner or have steak for breakfast?
Breakfast for dinner.
Breakfast
Mm.
for dinner. Brenner, huh?
Mhm.
Awesome. Marlena, anything you want to throw in on the lightning round? I've just kind of
Yeah,
monopolized here.
I want to know, do you ask for permission or beg for forgiveness?
Well, it depends. I usually will ask for permission, but there are some times when I'm going to do what I'm going to do anyways, and then I just do it.
Mm. What is your most productive hour of the day?
Um, Most productive is probably between 10 and 11 or midnight and 1.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Is that different from your favorite hour or time of the day?
Mm. My favorite times are when everybody's home and interacting.
Mm.
So it has less to do with a time of day. Although, when everybody goes off to bed, that has also really been one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. It's a great time. So, Cheri, thank you. Speaking of time, thank you for being generous with yours. We appreciate it. We appreciate getting to know you better. So people can find you at cheritimko.com. See any of your number of offerings there. And of course, check out the rest of the podcast. Be sure to subscribe, send us questions, and we'll get to know each other. If you have questions specifically about Cheri, she will love to answer it, especially the question about what to ask God. We'll be able to get back to that one at some point. So thank you
So
again.
much.
All right. And everybody just continue to be happy in the mess with us. Take care.